As US President Donald Trump scales back elements of his aggressive tariff regime amid market backlash and warnings from business leaders, World Trade Organization Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has emerged as a vital voice for long-term economic stability. In her recent remarks at the Council on Foreign Relations, she offered a sober assessment of global trade's future while issuing a call to rethink, not retreat from, multilateralism. The risk: a fractured global trade order. In clear contrast to US claims of economic leverage over China, Okonjo-Iweala warned that the rise of competing geopolitical trading blocs could slash global GDP by 7% over time, a loss far greater than most single-country recessions. This, she argued, is the cost of a US-China decoupling. Decoupling is a serious concern. It's not about bilateral trade, it's about the risk of splintering global commerce and worsening inequality. WTO models now predict that global goods trade, once expected to grow by 2.7% this year, will instead contract by 0.2% due to retaliatory tariffs and supply chain uncertainty. If escalation resumes, that contraction could reach 1.5%, pulling down global growth along with it. Second, repositioning the WTO, not abandoning. Okonjo-Iweala rejected pessimistic prediction about the WTO's irrelevance, noting that 22 nations are currently seeking membership, including emerging players like Ethiopia and Uzbekistan. But she was frank about internal dysfunction. Her reform or repositioning agenda includes reviving the dispute settlement system with greater use of arbitration and mediation in lieu of the paralyzed appellate body, clarifying development status criteria so benefits go to the poorest countries, not upper middle income powers, updating subsidy rules to address green technology and 21st century state capitalism, elevating reform discussions to multilateral, ministerial, and political levels away from procedural gridlock in Geneva. Third, the opportunity reglobalization. Rather than deglobalization, Okonjo-Iweala called for reglobalization, a deliberate effort to broaden trade participation and reduce over-dependence on single supply hubs. She pointed to Africa as a key beneficiary, citing value-added opportunities in critical minerals, pharmaceuticals, and agro-processing. It doesn't build global resilience to have 95% of semiconductors made in one place, she said. Trade must become more inclusive and decentralized. Fourth, trade as a growth engine if it's allowed to be. The WTO chief also reminded policymakers that trade remains essential to global growth. Services, especially digital and creative exports, offered the US a structural advantage, with the country posting a 260 billion US dollars surplus in service trade. She urged the US not to forsake this edge in a wholesale push for reindustrialization. Trade was built on interdependence, not overdependence, she said. You can't do everything alone, and history shows that import substitution often fails. Fifth, policy recommendations. Support WTO modernization by working through multilateral channels to resolve disputes, define subsidiary rules, and clarify development classifications. Target supply chain resilience, not retreat, by fostering regional diversification and investing in domestic competitiveness without cutting off global linkages. Invest in the service economy, including digital trade infrastructure as a source of high-value exports and inclusive job creation. Engage in principled bilateral talks, but ensure MFN principles are respected to avoid undermining the global system. Conclusion. The WTO's role has never been more critical. If the US chooses reform over retreat, it can help restore the rules-based order it once led and gain renewed global influence in the process. Okonjo-Iweala's message is clear. The future of trade is not about decoupling, but about reconnecting more wisely. Thank you.